Thanks for tuning in to Roger That Garage. Today I'm going to show you my 1996 Dodge Dakota that has been swapped with a 5.9 liter Magnum 360. But first, I'm going to go wash it because it's pretty dirty from all the recent rain and snow we've had. Every time. So my grandpa bought this Dodge Dakota brand new in 1996. So that's pretty cool. I've known it its whole life pretty much. And I can remember it being brand new, shiny. It was a sport Dakota, so it had the painted to match grille. The bumpers were black, has the fender flares. And it used to have those 90s swoopy graphics. They were like white down the side and it said sport on the side and on the front fenders. Those were all kind of faded when I took this truck over, so I peeled them off. But anyway, he liked the little trucks because I don't know why, he just did. His old truck before this was a late or whatever 80s S10, and it was so rusted out, it was just dead. So he got this little truck. At the time, he was leasing a pretty big property that he was running his cattle ranch on. So it's a few miles away from here, not too far, but he would just drive it back and forth to the ranch, and pretty much he didn't really drive in the winter that much, so it didn't really get that rusty with the salt they put on the roads here. But I always loved this truck from the beginning. It's such a cool looking little sport Dodge Dakota. I remember riding in it with him a few times over to the ranch and back, helping him out. But it didn't really go anywhere. Just basically back and forth and around the ranch and around town here a little bit. I don't think he ever really took it on longer trips or anything. And I know that because 13-ish years later, when my dad took this truck over, this thing only had about 40,000 miles on it. And yeah, it was low miles, but it was in pretty rough shape. The last probably 5 years of its life, after the lease on that property went up, so he wasn't driving back and forth there anymore. Just kind of, he used it around his little 14 acres here, and I had a compressor in the back and some tools, and he would just drive it out back and air up the tires on his tractors and stuff that were sitting there once in a while. And squirrels got up and chewed one or two of the injector wires, and it was missing, and it was just filthy. The interior was just trash. The steering wheel was rubbed through to the metal. Did I say steering wheel? Yeah, the steering wheel. So it was pretty rough shape, even though it was only having like 40,000 miles on it. So, and the body is fairly beat up. Like I said, it didn't have a lot of rust because he didn't drive it in the winter a lot. But it's pretty dented and faded and scratched up from being a farm truck, basically. It's 2 days later now, and it actually snowed after I washed the truck, so it's dirty again, salty. I gotta run to town, run some errands, so I'm gonna do a cold start. It was like 6 degrees Fahrenheit last night. Very cold, hasn't been that cold in a long time, but let's see how it does. Yeah, no problem. anyway, so when this truck, like I said, was 13, 14, maybe 15 years old, my dad took it over because he wanted a little daily driver truck. Oh no. So he took it over from my grandpa, and we fixed the wires on the injectors and did a few things to it to make it run good. And my dad used it for several years as his daily driver. And I think in that time he put somewhere around 60,000 miles on it, maybe a little more. But yeah, he drove it probably for 6-7 years, something like that. But he drove it all the time in the winter, summer, so it did start to get a little rusty on the frame and underneath the fender flares and stuff. But the interior just got even more trash. He never really cleaned it up. And he was kind of a big guy, so the seats got all broke up and stuff. But yeah, he loved it. He drove the heck out of it. By the way, this truck was a 3.9 liter V6 originally. But anyway, yeah, he drove it for years as a daily driver. I would ride in it with him to town or grab parts or whatnot. So he drove it, and eventually, unfortunately, my dad got sick and ended up passing away a few years ago. So I took over the truck, and it needed a lot of work. It wasn't running very good. Like I said, the seat back was broken because my dad was a big guy getting in and out of it. Yeah, there's just, interior was just filthy. So I took it and I got it cleaned up. I actually found another Dodge Dakota, same truck, a black one. It was a 2-wheel drive V6. It was had a lot of problems. The body wasn't very good, but the interior was actually really nice. So I bought it. I put this wood grain dash bezels in it. I put a new steering wheel in it because, like I said, the old one was rubbed through to the metal up here. I don't know if they just sit there and twist on it. My dad and my grandpa. I put a steering wheel from that in it. I put the seats. It had a decent pair of front seats in it that weren't broken, so I put the front seat in it. So I got it all working good. Got the interior looking better. But the little V6 was just kind of tired. Didn't have great oil pressure. Kind of had a lifter tick developing. And the transmission went out on it. It's the 4.2 RE, I think. But I had it rebuilt. But anyway. But I didn't have to do anything to the front end or the suspension on it, the steering. I did put new shocks on it. The front shocks were bad, but I think all the steering and suspension, besides the shocks, is all original, which is amazing because it's not like it was a highway vehicle. So since I could see this 3.9 V6 the truck came with was on limited time left here on this earth, I kind of started wondering about doing a V8 swap in it. I knew these trucks came with the 5.2 318 stock. You could get them with those. And originally I was like, well, that'd be pretty easy. Maybe I ought to look for a 5.2 liter to swap into it. Because probably, as some of you know, that the 3.9 V6, it's pretty gutless. Even though it got okay mileage, kind of, not really. Anyway, I just kind of wanted to do a V8 swap, so I started doing some research on it, seeing what it would take. I knew it wouldn't be too bad because the 3.9 is a small block Mopar with the front 2 cylinders cut off. So I started doing some research, and then I started thinking, well, maybe I could even swap a 360 into it. So the thing with this 1996 Dakota is it was the only year of the first gen Dakota to have the OBD2 system on it, which means you can tune the PCMs to do what you want. So I thought maybe I could get a PCM tune to run a 5.9 liter 360. So I started doing some research, thinking about it, and then I had an opportunity come up. My cousin was given a 1999 Dodge Ram 1500 that was in quite rough shape, and he didn't really want to fix it up or do anything with it, so he passed it on to me, and it had a 5.9 liter engine in it with a freshly rebuilt 4.6RE transmission. So then I was like, okay, well, I got a motor here, so maybe I'll swap this into it. And that 1500 was pretty rough. It was pretty rusty, pretty beat up. It was a long bed, extended cab, 1500 truck, so nobody wants long beds. I had a broken leaf spring, and actually the harmonic balancer on the engine, the rubber was gone out of it, so the metal weight was just banging around and noisy, and the truck was vibrating horribly. So I took it to a new balancer on it just to make sure it ran good, and it ran fine. It had like 158,000 miles on it, I think, but it ran fine. Didn't have any signs of blow by. Pulled the valve cover, it wasn't sludged up really too bad or anything, so I decided to pull the motor out of it and do a swap on this family heirloom Dakota. Sneak peek at some other vehicles that will be on the channel. My 2007 1/2 Cummins 6-speed manual, 1997 12 valve Cummins, Dad bought brand new, and my mom's 68 Firebird that my brother's been working on. So stay tuned for those. So swapping the 3.9 V6 with the 5.9 Magnum was pretty straightforward. The motor mounts all lined up the exact same. We had to modify the column shifter, the shifter selector linkage. I can't remember, we just kind of cut it and turned it and got it to fit, and it works just fine. It lines up good. The indicator reads good on the steering column. What else? I probably would have just left the 4.2RE in it because it was freshly rebuilt, but this one was just rebuilt also, so I guess I decided to go ahead and try and stuff this big transmission in it, which I'm glad it worked out good. So for the PCM, I bought off eBay one for a 96 Dakota for a 5.2 liter, and I bought a tuner from an SCT tuner from Utah Performance, and then he was supposed to put me a tune together and send it to me, and I upload it. It took him forever to, for some reason, to crack into this computer or whatever and make me a tune, but eventually he did. It ran fine with the stock 5.2 computer, even though this is a 5.9. But they made me a tune for this 5.9 and everything else I have on it, and it was more powerful for sure, accelerated faster and stuff, but it just would ping like crazy, even on premium. He told me to run straight premium, and I did, but it would still just ping on me. So I ended up, the computer that's in it now is out of just a 1996 1500 full-size truck with the 5.9, and it's it doesn't ping like that, and I don't know, runs fine. I could probably have a little more power out of the tuned PCM, but it just pings, and I don't know what's up with. I could maybe get a hold of the guy and get him to write me a new tune or something, but I don't even know if he's in business anymore. And he was kind of hard to get a hold of in the first place, so. But that's what I've got now in it. So I had my brother help me. He's really good at fabricating. We had to modify the Y pipe a little bit to fit around the underneath and up and around the side of the 4.6 RE transmission. I just got some exciting news. The transmission for this Barracuda should be done later next week. That's what my transmission guy told me. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll get that swapped into here. I'm excited to see how that does. If you want to see more about this car, check out my other videos. So I had to shorten the radiator shroud a little bit, which is basically what the stock, or what came stock in the 5.2 liter V8. So I just zipped off the front of that. It's probably about that much longer. So just cut that off. I had to bend these AC lines a little bit more to get them to fit. I'm sure I could get some stock lines for the 5.2, but these were already on. The system was working and charged, so I just laid the compressor out of the way while I did the swap. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. I just kind of tweaked those, bent them to fit there. What else? I had to wire in. From the donor truck, I pulled 2 pins and the 2 wires that go to the, was it the rear injectors or the front? I can't remember. I think I had to add it to the, I can't remember. It was either front or the rear injectors that I had to add. So yeah, that's all I had to do is pull the pins out of the plug on the donor truck and run those 2 wires and the injectors plugs, and then I plugged them into the computer here. So that was pretty easy on that. I didn't have to change the engine harness or anything. I should say I did this I started it in December 2020 and I finished it early January 2021, and I pulled an engine out of an old car once many years ago, but I've never have installed an engine in a car or truck or done a swap or anything like this. I've rebuilt lots of motorcycle engines and even a tractor engine and done some work like that, but I've never done anything like this. Yeah, it was pretty straightforward. I just threw some cheap eBay shorty headers on it, which they were tricky to kind of get some of the bolts in there, but they don't leak or anything. I haven't really had any problems with them. The Y pipe, I can't remember. It was from a kind of a higher performance company. I can't even remember where I got it from. Jigs or something, but it's a nicer, higher performance Y pipe that we had to modify to fit around the 4.6 RE transmission. These first gen Dakotas never came with a 4.6 RE. If it had the V8, it had the 4.4 RE. The PCM will run any of the transmissions, the 4.6 RE, 4.4, or 4.2 RE. So it really doesn't matter which transmission you put in it, because it just tells it to shift at a certain time and whatnot. So I guess that's one thing that's nice about these older, simple OBD2 systems. They're not as complicated, but I don't know if you can tune them as well. I do have a Hughes Performance throttle body on there. It's been machined out bigger and smoothed out, and I can definitely tell makes a little more horsepower at higher RPMs over the stock. I can't remember how many millimeter, but it's definitely bigger bigger bores in the throttle body. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, it runs great. I kind of had some ambitions to put a kind of the similar cam I put in the Barracuda in this, and that Utah some performance guy. He takes these beer cake manifolds and he opens them up and 3D prints a big old throttle body, and they even tested that on Engine Masters a few years, 2 or 3, 4 years ago or something. But yeah, bigger throttle body, and they put a divider down in the plenum there, and I don't know, he ports them, I don't know, does other stuff. I don't even know if he still does that. I wanted to do that pretty bad after I built this truck, but I don't know. It's just a great driver, daily driver. It is my daily driver. This and the D200 on my last video are my daily drivers. Definitely, it has way more power, obviously, than the 3.9 liter. That thing could hardly get out of its own way. But this, yeah, it's pretty peppery. It moves itself effortlessly, and it's fun to drive. Breaks the tires loose a little bit. This thing weighs about 4,500 pounds with being four-wheel drive. It's 392 final gears, which is awesome. That's actually what they put in the Shelby Dakota, was 392 gears. It's tall enough to cruise on the highway, but low enough to get you out of the hole quick. So that worked out great. It was just open diff, but I put in a limited slip differential carrier in it all by myself. Yeah, it's a awesome driving fun truck. Gets about 12-13 miles to gallon around town and about 12 on the highway. So doing this swap, I mean, like I said, this is kind of the first time I'd ever done anything like this. It made me think. I was like, well, man, if I could do this, why couldn't I do something with the Barracuda? Why don't I just throw it together and get it driving? All these years we've been waiting. I've been waiting to do it perfect, do the body work and find the right motor and do a big 440 swap, 4-speed and all this stuff. But being inspired by this, and also by David Freiberger, who says, don't get it right, just get it running, I decided to just go ahead and do that. And this gave me the confidence to do that. And I basically just threw that car together, drove it around in primer for a year, and I just had fun with it. Driving that Barracuda, drove it around for a year, and while I kind of decided what to do with it and saved up some money and collected some parts to get it where it is now. So because of this, yeah, it got me into getting the Cuda done. I'll try to wipe some of this salt off real quick so I can kind of show you the body of it. I hate salt. I mean, I'm glad they can, use it to make the road safe when needed, but I think they way overuse it. All right, there, I tried to clean it up a little bit so you can see it, but I spray that lanolin based fluid film stuff all underneath it, and I try to wash it as soon as possible after it gets salty, and try to keep it salt free as much as possible. But you can see there's a little bit of rust behind there. I took those off and sprayed that lanolin stuff all up in there before winter. But this truck's lived outside its whole life. Like I said, she's a little scratched up, dented up, faded. And I'd like to do a scuff and shoot, kind of a quick body job on it, fix some of the dents and stuff, or a paint job. But my dad and my grandpa, they're the ones that put most of these scratches and these dents and stuff in it. So it reminds me of them. And it gives it character, I guess, even though it looks a little ugly. I put wheels off a 2nd gen Dakota on it, 16-inch. Those of you who know these trucks know they come with these weird little tiny 6-lug patterns that they don't really make any aftermarket wheels for. So I like these. They're a little more offset than the stock ones, and that kind of makes it look a little more updated, I guess. But yeah, maybe one day I just put it back to black. But like I said, my grandpa and my dad, they put all these scratches and dents in it, using it for what trucks are typically used for. So for now, I'll probably just leave it, but I keep it clean and try to take care of it much as I can. My son will be 16 in a few years, so hopefully he can drive this one day, and then that'll be 4 generations of driving this truck. Here's some shots of the interior. Sorry about the seat cover, it's pretty worn. Like I said, it's a daily driver. It's got almost 160,000 miles on it now, and I've put probably 12,000 miles on since I did the swap. Get about around 4,000 miles a year on it. That's what happens when you got too many other things to drive. But the back seat that's really only good for kids or extremely short people. So passenger side. Crank windows. It's not a very high option truck. No power locks, no power windows, no power seats. Alright, that's it for the 5.9 liter Magnum swapped family heirloom Dakota. Let me know if you have any questions on the swap or if I missed anything. So thanks for watching, and over and out.